Firstly, thank you for being interested in this research. This research was conducted by a master's student, Carlos Silva, at the Federal University of Alagoas, Brazil. My name is Alvaro Sobrinho. I am a researcher and professor of the Federal University of the Agreste of Pernambuco and the Federal University of Alagoas, both located in Brazil. We designed and evaluated an architecture to generate apps for the monitoring and treatment of the chronic kidney disease using the concepts of gamification. I will start describing an outline of this presentation. Firstly, I'm going to introduce the main concept related to this study, that is gamification, followed by the main objective with this study, some examples of related works, and the problem statements that motivate the definition of the solution. Finally, I will present the solution proposed, evaluation results, and conclusions. Gamification is related to the reuse of game elements, aiming to improve the engagement of users. That is, to provide good feelings for users. One possible question is, what can apps present to achieve this goal? Visual rewards and physical rewards can be used by developers to motivate the users. The main objective is to keep users using the gamified app. An example of area benefited by this concept is the healthcare. Consider, for example, a chronic disease diagnosed. The patient needs to reformulate daily habits such as nutritional control and frequency of exercise. In this concept, one of the main objectives is to prevent the progression of the disease. The progression of the chronic kidney disease, for example, can result in life-threatening conditions. In addition to the app, caregivers also play a relevant role to engage the patient to follow the treatment plan described by a physician. That is, gamification is a mechanism to achieve a healthier lifestyle assisted by the digital world. We focus on gamified apps for healthcare. The main objective is to assist developers to design gamified apps for the monitoring and treatment of patients with CKD. In this case, these are two examples of related works. The first author presents the octopus, a model to assist healthcare of patients with chronic disease using gamification. The main objective is to promote changes in users' behaviors. The second author presents relevant elements for developing apps using gamification to support the treatment of patients diagnosed with the Alzheimer's disease. So far, to the best of our knowledge, this work contributes with an architecture not yet available in the literature that considers CKD apps based on the CKD stages of patients. A CKD patient is required to follow a treatment plan that includes, for example, changing in eating habits, conduct exercise, and the usage of a set of medications. Therefore, a different treatment is used depending on the stage of the disease for each patient. Considering this problem, we designed the architecture using the attribute-driven design method. The ADD method focuses on relevant functional requirements and quality attributes such as usability and maintainability, primarily focusing on quality attributes. The ADD is composed of architectural views such as the usage view, that is, documentation artifacts. The ADD also prescribes the definition of an architectural standard. In addition, we applied the discovery review method to design and evaluate the architecture proposed. We interviewed health professionals and the software developer throughout this study. Finally, we developed a prototype as usage scenario of the architecture. The first block of this image is used to illustrate the first step of the development process schema, the elicitation and analysis of functional and quality requirements based on the ADD method. The quality attribute modificability guided the definition of the architecture. The second block of the image comprises of the definition of the architecture based on the ADD and discovery review methods. The third block of the image comprises of the evaluation of the proposed architecture using the discovery review method. Finally, the last block is used to illustrate the implementation of a prototype according to the proposed architecture. This image illustrates the schema defined for the generation of apps. The first step is the usage of an auto-ship tool to configure the new app to be developed. This configuration is recorded in an XML file. The XML file is analyzed and validated to enable the generation of a specific app based on the existing architectural elements. In addition, a patient or caregiver should provide information about the patient's profile to enable the complete configuration. During the definition of the architecture, we interviewed 4 stakeholders, a physician, 2 nurses, and 1 developer. In addition to document the architecture according to the ADD method, we used the unified modeling language to represent architectural views. That is, modular view, usage view between modules, layered view, and class and interface views. The ADD method also prescribes the definition of an architectural standard. We used the model view control architectural pattern to define the architectural standard of the solution. For example, this image illustrates the top part of the usage view UML diagram. The modular gamification interface is composed of the graphical user interface considering gamification elements such as track, badge, automated chat, levels, and progress bar. This image illustrates the middle part of the usage view UML diagram. The submodules that comprise the gamification control module are related to the 6 stages of the CKD, being an interface between the models and the graphical user interface based on the MVC. Finally, this image illustrates the bottom part of the usage view UML diagram. The module gamification model contains the implementation of the control logic of the app. For example, the control of consumption of salt, an important feature of CKD apps. In addition to define the architecture, as highlighted, we conducted evaluations to increase confidence on the specification. The architectural design is the basis for the concrete apps. A physician, 2 nurses, and 1 developer were also interviewed during this activity, following the discovery review method. We conducted presentations of documentation, in addition to the interviews. The evaluation was conducted during 2 months. We prepared the assessment, defined architectural reviews, demonstrated architectural and usage scenarios, and applied the changes according to the results of interviews. That is, we basically conducted 2 steps of evaluation. We conducted a step-by-step evaluation considering the opinions of stakeholders to evaluate completeness of the requirements defined in the architecture. and we conducted the improvements based on the results. In addition, we designed a prototype to improve the evaluation activity. The prototype was designed based on specific architectural elements and developed as a web application. The prototype is just an example of implementation considering learning components to assist CKD patients to understand the disease. We used PHP, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to develop the app. In this case, we focused on the stage 1 of the CKD, assisting patients to learn about the treatment in this stage of the CKD. This figure illustrates the main graphical user interface of the prototype. Note that it presents an environment similar to that of a hospital, showing that the interaction of the patient with the medical devices and health professionals. This is another example of graphical user interface of the app, focusing on the stage of a gamified element, the trail. This mechanism is useful as a roadmap to assist the usage of the app, the progress, and the remaining tasks to be conducted. Additionally, the progress bar element is used to detail the current level and scores of the users, enabling the verification of evolution considering the usage of the CKD app and the treatment explained. This image illustrates that it is possible to change the profile of the user, considering the CKD stage. However, in this prototype, we only implemented the features for the CKD stage 1. In order to exemplify the existing missions of the gamified app developed as prototype, this image illustrates that the user is required to conduct some tasks, such as reading instructions, reading tips about medications, and reading information about the treatment. Once missions are accomplished, points are accumulated in the app. The level is modified, and the user receives rewards as badges to motivate the use of the application. To evaluate the prototype, we also used the system's usability scale. We informed the physician, 2 nurses, and 1 developer about the goals of providing the learning environment. We applied questionnaires based on the Likert scale, ranging from 1 to 5. The professionals answered 10 questions about satisfaction, efficiency, and completeness. For example, one question was, "It is easy to navigate this app?" Another one is, "Does this app have a nice and readable presentation?" We evaluated the ease of learning, obtained average results of almost 4.7. We have also evaluated efficiency, obtaining average results of 4.8. And we evaluated user satisfaction, obtaining average results of almost 4.8. We identified the need for improvements of the app and are currently developing a new version. We also envision to conduct usability tests with target users based on the ISO 9241 and make the new version freely available for CKD patients. Therefore, we designed the gamified architecture based on the ADD method and identified positive aspects and potential applicability. We evaluated the architecture using the discovery review method and prototyping. And gamification showed to be useful in the context of patients with CKD. Thank you for your attention.